This is Talk Radio TV's Cancel Countdown. Cancel culture has spiralled out of control. Pretty much everything seems to be cancelled. Right is the new wrong, keyboard warriors are the new police, and offence has replaced common sense. There's not much the woke brigade hasn't tried to cancel. But what does cancel culture actually mean? Nothing is safe from the woke brigade. Anyone or anything can be cancelled. Celebs, statues, songs, even curry. Put one foot wrong and you're... But what does it mean to be a victim of cancel culture? It's the toxic woke practice of branding things or people so bad that we should all banish them out of existence. My colleague Mike Graham said it best.
If you said something that the general wokeists didn't like, you would be cancelled. You would be told that you were a disgusting, disgraceful, depraved individual and you should not have views like that.
But as you're about to learn, it doesn't take much for the snowflakes to melt and declare even the most everyday things cancelled. So brace yourself for the Cancel Countdown. To kick off our list, in one of the wokiest moments of the year, a children's book which has delighted generations of kids has been cancelled. Judith Kerr's The Tiger Who Came to Tea has been dubbed problematic by Rachel Adamson from the charity Zero Tolerance. She claims the book could lead to rape and harassment because it reinforces gender inequality that causes violence against women. How? Well, the book sees an uninvited tiger join a girl and her mother for tea before eating all the food in the house, drinking everything, running the taps dry, and then leaving.
So when you pick up this book to read it later to one of your children, remember rape and sexual harassment.
Certainly don't fancy tea around Rachel's house. The wokies are rewriting history. Literally, the Globe Theatre, which has been the home of William Shakespeare's plays since 1599, has decided to add a trigger warning to their productions. Now, we all know the plot of Romeo and Juliet. In the end, the two star-crossed lovers drink poison and die in each other's arms. But the theatre is warning fans that the classic play involves upsetting scenes of suicide, drug abuse and fake blood. They're even providing a number for the Samaritans. Too woke or not too woke? That is the question, but I think we all know the answer.
These people are sitting in their armchairs thinking about how they can, you know, make people less frightened by Shakespeare. How can a society survive like this if everybody is so sensitive that even Shakespeare might emotionally disturb them so much that they need to go and talk to the Samaritans?
And it's not just writers from the past that are in the firing line. The author J.K. Rowling found no magical solutions after she came under fire for responding to a headline on an online article which featured the phrase, "people who menstruate." She responded by writing in a tweet, "I'm sure there used to be a name for those people. Someone out there help me. Is it Womden, Wimpund, Womund?"
She's just raised legitimate concerns about where trans rights may impinge on women's rights. And what do we do about that?
The reaction has been completely hysterical. People have been burning her books. They've been putting videos on TikTok of them burning her books. The RIP J.K. Rowling was trending on Twitter, which is just repulsive.
That's disgusting, isn't it? And an Australian
awful.
bookshop said they're refusing to stock her book because they want to make a safe space for trans people.
All fair comment, but many stars of the Wizarding franchise publicly distanced themselves from the author. That includes the very people she made famous: Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson and Eddie Redmayne. There's gratitude for you. At number 9, Disney is kissing goodbye to romance. Disneyland's popular Snow White ride in California came under fire for its true love kiss scene, which shows the prince kissing the sleeping princess. All fairly normal stuff, you might think, but critics were not happy. They said the cartoon character was being kissed without her consent and blasted Disneyland for including it in the revamped ride. Now, my Talk Radio colleague Mike Graham argued the wokists were the real villains of the story.
Are these people serious? Are these people actually expecting anyone to take them seriously? This is a fairy tale. The clue is in the word fairy tale. It's not real. In fact, worse than that, they are taking the side of the Wicked Witch. They are actually saying that if the prince doesn't kiss Snow White, which is what they think should happen, she will stay asleep effectively dead for the rest of time. So what they're against now is bringing Snow White back to life. Whatever you do, for heaven's sake, don't tell them about the 7 dwarfs. Can you imagine? Unbelievable. Get a life, wokeists.
Lovey actress Keira Knightley also tried to cancel fairy tales, telling US talk show host Ellen DeGeneres she's banned her daughter from watching Disney movies.
Cinderella, banned, because, you know, she waits around for a rich guy to rescue her. Don't. Rescue yourself, obviously.
Right.
And this is the one that I'm quite annoyed about because I really like the film, but Little Mermaid. I mean, the songs are great, but do not give your voice up for a man. Hello? Wow. I'll say yes.
And the word police are at it again at number 8. A ludicrous campaign literally ruffled feathers when an animal rights group called for people to watch their language when using animal terms to describe things. What does that mean, you might wonder? Well, the charity PETA says it's offensive to use descriptions of animals in derogatory ways. For example, you shouldn't say rat. Instead, you should use the word snitch because that could be offensive to rats. The word chicken, for someone who might be a bit scared, is an absolute no-no. The activists even issued a list of alternative idioms in which no animals are harmed. This is what happened when PETA representatives came onto my radio show to try and explain how our language hurts animals' feelings.
We're talking about using language that is harmful and that it's inaccurate, and it perpetuates this false idea that some species are inferior and that they don't deserve respect, and that's what needs to change. You know, for example, if I were to come on air and call you a rat, you know, you probably wouldn't be too happy with me, but we really should think about why that is. Because rats are intelligent, they're sociable, they're playful as well. So,
and they spread the bubonic plague, but other than that, I mean, they're a beautiful creature, aren't they?
Well, you know, researchers actually found out that a hungry rat share their food with another hungry rat.
Listen, I love rats, but if somebody uses the term you're a rat and somebody uses the term you're a snake, I mean, come on, are we really going to get upset about that? You can call a spade, but you can't call a grandma. Not since a tribunal ruled that referring to an employee as a grandmother could be considered discriminatory, even if the person you're talking about is actually one. 62-year-old Anne Dobson took her employer to court after she was referred to as a grandma in a car review in 2017. She argued it was a dig at her age and raised a laugh in the office at her expense, and later resigned from her £50,000 a year job. Wonder what her 3 grandkids thought about that. Kevin O'Sullivan and Dawn Neeson couldn't get their heads around the whole a grandma suing somebody for calling her a grandma thing either.
You know, this is like staring us in the face. This woman is a grandmother. You can't call her a grandmother. Well, what can we call her then?
Well, Kevin, operating on the principle that now calling someone a woman is on dodgy ground. I mean, it's like, I mean, you know, can we even actually be sure that she, you know, she wants to be identified as a woman these days?
And continuing with the theme of language, the University of Bristol banned its fitness instructors from telling students to lose weight, as they were worried it could be fat-phobic. This meant that trainers were banned from using terms like burn off those calories and work off last night's pizza. For number 7, put your cutlery in the bin. A deluded chef and food writer sparked outrage by claiming that knives and forks are, wait for it, racist. Joshna Maharaj says the practice of teaching kids that they shouldn't use their hands at the table is dripping with control and shame of colonisation. She says kids should be taught to eat with both utensils and their hands, as well as being exposed to different cuisines from an early age. Now, while trying to get my head around kitchen utensils being offensive on air, I managed to unwittingly cancel something else. It feeds back into that drip, drip, drip effect that you're telling young kids everything, no matter what you do, touch, look at, smell, feel, read or see, is probably somewhere intrinsically linked to something barbaric, in this case, racist. So stop doing everything, because it's all linked to something. No matter what you do, I'm just waiting for the point that sitting on the loo is racist. I'm sure someone's going to make that connection at some point. And actually, it's fair to say most loos are white, aren't they? So maybe they're onto something there. They might be onto something there. You ever see a black toilet? No. Brown? No. Any other? You see, I've stumbled on this. Toilets are racist. Forget all that other stuff you read about. Toilets are racist. We need to decolonialise bogs. And make some noise for number 6. Or, well, don't, because Manchester University's student union banned clapping, whooping and cheering in favour of jazz hands. Reps waved goodbye to the gestures, voting to replace them with the British Sign Language equivalent at student events such as debates, talks and panels. Union officer Sarah Khan said traditional clapping can cause problems for students with autism, sensory issues or deafness.
British Sign Language clapping, which visually looks like this. People have more informally heard it referred to as jazz hands, but that is the official British Sign Language version of clapping.
Good luck with sticking that in your dissertation. And we're coming up to a break now here on Talk Radio TV's Cancel Countdown. We've rattled through 5, frankly, ridiculous examples of cancel culture. Here's a quick recap. At number 10, writers were told they were wrong. At 9, Disney romance was given the kiss of death. At number 8, the PC Patrol's Guide to Problematic Language. At 7, knives and forks were taken off the table. At 6, we waved goodbye to clapping. Coming up, find out which favourite foods have been cancelled and what parenting advice the snowflakes have got for you. See you after the break. Welcome back to our Talk Radio TV's Cancel Countdown. So far, we've taken you all the way from Hogwarts to your own bedside table at number 10, then to a rather less romantic Disneyland at number 9. At 8, we had a lesson from the Wokarati before being told to use our hands at the table for number 7, to hold our applause at number 6. If you thought all of that was mad, you will not believe what is coming up. This is Talk Radio TV's Cancel Countdown. If you've ever wondered what woke music would sound like, it would probably sound like this. That's right, even music isn't safe because some lyrics aren't to the wokies' liking and the poor little lambs get very upset. Now that, of course, the patriotic classic Rule Britannia. The BBC said they would be dropping it from their 2020 proms because of its association with colonialism and slavery.
I think it is a terrible decision. I think it is the worst kind of BBC fudge and emphasises why reform is so required at this national institution.
For context, by the way, the song was actually written in 1740. History clearly not the strong point over there at the BBC. But following a major backlash from the public, the Beeb did a U-turn and did eventually perform the song. Never mind that. Elsewhere in the musical world, a man wants to legally cancel an image of himself unless he can get his hands on $150,000 worth of damages from Nirvana. Spencer Eldon claims he was sexually exploited as a child when an image of him swimming naked was shot for the band's iconic album cover. Although he's since recreated the image as an adult, he argues he couldn't have given consent as a baby and said he feels like the world's biggest porn star.
He's done numerous interviews in the past whenever there's an anniversary of this iconic album's release, and he didn't seem to have a problem with it before.
No, I understand he's featured in 3 different shots, recreations of this. He now has Nevermind, the album cover's title, tattooed across his chest. And he's sort of rather made a career, I think. I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but of using this album and his having featured within it to work with people like Shepard Fairey, the artist, and who's spoken very positively about that. So it does seem strange, somewhat strange, that he should now be having these negative views.
Smells like teen spirit, smells more like wokery to me. Now, this is a spicy one making its way into our 4th spot. It's curry. An Indian-American food blogger cooked up a storm online when she called on people to cancel the word curry in the online clip, which has been viewed more than 3.6 million times. Chaheti Bansal says the term has long been misused by foreigners to describe any dish that's made on the Asian subcontinent. She claims that white people couldn't be bothered to learn the actual names of particular Indian dishes, so they use an umbrella term and just call everything curry, something she says is wrong.
I don't understand what that word means. Like, there's a saying that the food in India changes every 100 kilometers. kilometers, and yet we're still using this umbrella term popularized by white people who couldn't be bothered to learn the actual names of our dishes.
This is a classic case of someone with way too much time on their hands. Hashtag head hit desk. Well, comedian and self-proclaimed woke finder General Abby Roberts isn't having any of it.
You never hear people saying, you know, like about British food, calling it grub or chocker. You know, imagine if I went, oh, let's go and have some grub, and somebody went, how dare you call it grub? Why aren't you looking at the specifics? You know, it's kind of like, why are these people so focused on something when there's so much terrible stuff going on in those countries, Southeast Asia? You know, like the treatment of girls and women. You know, why are we focusing on a delicious food that we all love, that brings us together?
In at number 3, the very people who made our country what it is today. Edward Colston's statue, created in 1895, was attacked by protesters in Bristol, defacing this vital reminder of our past with graffiti and then tearing it down.
So far as that statue is not literally bleaching my skin or making me melt, I really don't think, you know, it's irrelevant. Nobody's celebrating him. There's so many historical figures that have been involved in very abhorrent activities. Where do we stop with this? You know, where does it end with Edward Colston statue? I just think, you know, there are bigger issues. We're just coming out of a pandemic. Millions of people have lost their jobs. Are you really preoccupied with a statue?
In a similar example of collective hysteria, the man who was once voted the greatest Brit of all time, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, who led us to victory in World War II, saving us from Nazi Germany, also found himself on the receiving end of a woke-based lashing. And if that didn't make you sit up and choke, our longest-serving monarch is also the target of the easily offended. A portrait of the Queen was removed by students at Magdalen College at Oxford University because they thought she was a representation of colonial rule. God save the snowflake. Doesn't sound quite right, does it? Mike Graham was not amused.
And these people in Magdalen College, right, they should be ashamed of themselves. Apparently they're now going to go for some art, which is done by people of inspirational nature. I don't know who that would be. What, Damien Hirst? How about a cow in formaldehyde? Something like that? Would that be making you feel more welcome? I'm sick to death of these wokeists. They really should get real.
Playtime's over, kids' toys are cancelled. It's a breathtaking entry at number 2. Every child's favourite couple, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, aren't woke enough for the PC Patrol. The toy makers Hasbro gave parents a headache when they announced they'd be rebranding their Mr. Potato Head range and simply calling it Potato Head, and announcing that a gender-neutral toy would be hitting the shelves so that kids can create their own Potato Head family. This can mean it can be as diverse and as inclusive as they like. And I pretty much tied myself in knots trying to work this one out on air. You thought that Mr. Potato was a Mr. Oh, no. He's gender-neutral, isn't he? They. I said they. Your Honour, I said they. They are gender-neutral. You thought there might be a little chippy chip hanging there beneath Mr. Potato Head, proving that he is a man? There is no little chippy chip there. No. He's not a man, he's not a woman, he's a nothing. He's another. We're not a nothing, Your Honour. I don't mean like he's nothing. I'm not saying gender-neutral people are nothing, OK? I'm saying he's just like Mr. Potato Head. Before we reveal the most ridiculous thing cancel culture dug its crazy claws into, let's look back at our cancel countdown and see what the wokies have set their sights on so far. At number 10, we've seen classic tales like Romeo and Juliet fall victim to woke washing, and we've been told we should never invite a tiger to tea. At 9, romance is dead after Disneyland cut the kissing scene from their Snow White ride. At number 8, grandmas, rats and getting fit were all deemed problematic by the PC Patrol. At 7, knives and forks were swapped for hands, and then at number 6 we were told to stop clapping and start waving. At number 5, Rule Britannia was ruled out by the wokies, and Nirvana's Nevermind cover boy tried to cancel himself. At 4, curry was taken off the menu. Then at 3, Edward Colston, a Prime Minister and even the Queen were cancelled and their statues and pictures taken down. And at number 2, your kids were told they should be disgusted at the idea of playing with Mr. Potato Head. And if things couldn't get any woker, strap in for our showstopper. At number 1 on Talk Radio TV's Cancel Countdown is something we can all relate to. chest feeding. I'm joking, of course, but unfortunately, the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine isn't. They now encourage midwives to say chest feeding instead of breastfeeding. This is in a bid to be more trans-friendly. The institution even took it one step further and now advise NHS staff to say human milk instead of breast milk. These people are literally rewriting the facts of life. Unsurprisingly, this one didn't pass the Mike Graham common sense test.
Well, you can apply the common sense test, I think, to almost anything. And if it doesn't sound very sensible to change the name of something because you don't like the name, because it somehow harkens back to a time when people were terribly badly treated or something, it doesn't mean that that actually makes any sense. And chest feeding, if you said to somebody, what do you think that means? I mean, I would have no idea. I mean, for me, it conjures up an image of a zombie eating somebody's chest. And then, you know, they die. That's what it sounds like to me. It's not breastfeeding. Breastfeeding you can only do if you have breasts.
And that's the definitive top 10 of all things that are likely to drive you absolutely mad. The curious thing about all of these unfathomable stories is that you rarely meet those responsible for cancelling things. Who are these faceless characters determined to take an axe to everyday life? We'll just keep looking. In the meantime, just be careful with anything you say or even dare to think. The wokerati could be coming for you next. Thanks for joining us on Talk Radio TV's Cancel Countdown. Thanks for not cancelling us yet. Tune in to Talk Radio TV, where we'll continue to monitor the woke army and try our best to protect things from the wrath of the woke brigade. Goodbye.